I'm a contractor by trade, and I was working on the house next door and saw that this one was for sale. After about a year period of time, I was able to talk the owner into financing me. So I took it on and spent almost a year getting it to the point where it was habitable again. Antone Nielson and Ester were the builders of this house. He got his start working for ranchers in the area, and after a while requested that they pay him in sheep or in lambs. And so it wasn't long before he had his own herd. This property was used to produce all the necessary supplies, food, etc. for the ranches that they had in the different areas in the West. Antone in his later years had a full white beard and would drive around and make sure the widows and orphans had a decent meal for Christmas. I always have adored old Victorian homes, and especially the craftsmanship that goes into putting them together. It is unique, and I hate to see an old home like that torn down. So the home is a folk Victorian style home. It has two matching turrets on each side, so it's symmetrical. Parquet wood floors, the large base moldings, as well as the moldings around the windows and doors are all quite elaborate. They are made from heartwood, redwood, that is a softwood that can not only be carved, but it can also be rolled and crushed into the right shape of a more intricate design. The rosettes are the wood blocks that are at the top corners of the windows and doors, and each room in the house has a different style. This room that we're sitting in has got a crown shape on it, and so we call it the crown room. The parquet wood floor in the house is made of oak and cherry and maple. All the pieces were hand carved and put into place. Or the dining room floor, as well as the kitchen floor, had somewhat of a newfangled linoleum type covering. This is an original piece. When we did the remodeling, we saved it. And one of the things that a Victorian house had was a heat source in every room. This room has a fireplace in it. The kitchen obviously had the stove, and then they also had potbelly stoves. They called them Franklin's, like the one right behind me. Before the day of forced air heat and air conditioning, they would have just used ventilation, where they'd open a window on the side that maybe the wind was blowing from, and then to get the ventilation through onto the other rooms, they would have a window above the door, which was very common, and then it had an opening and closure on it. The china cabinet was built into the wall. A lot of times in the day, your valuables were more in your jewelry as well as your china, as opposed to money sitting in the bank. So they would like to display that and put that out. There weren't banks around at the time, and so there's sometimes hidden wall where you can take off a piece of material and find a hidden vault. So this was just something that was just a nice little way to hide things. This room's got to be my favorite. It took a long time to take the paint off. I'd come in every day and put really heavy paint remover on. Trying to cut through 5 or 6 or 7 layers of paint was difficult. I spent a lot of time fixing the wood floor in the front. It's just a beautiful, beautiful floor. Incredible workmanship went into it, but it had some black spots in it where just inside the front door and at the entrance into this room. So it took a lot of sanding. The black that remains, I think, kind of accents the grain of the wood, and so that's kind of a nice accent. The brick on the side of the house is yellow and the front brick is red. In Victorian England, that was a sign of a very luxurious house if you had multiple types of brick. The foundation is granite, and so they would basically dig down to a footing and just place the granite stones. Most of the granite stones of the houses of this area came from the temple quarry. There was a lot of leftover materials that were used to provide the foundation for many houses in this area, including this one. I'd like to point out the door also. It was original. Something that's typical of Victorian homes is multicolor, either in the brick as well as the moldings, and so this door's carved. The old ringer still works, as well as the original doorknob in the house. It has corbels at the eaves, brackets, finials, and spindles. On the top of the roof gable was an original. It's tin that was soldered together and all made by hand, pressed in a press and then fitted together. Originally, what was left of the woodwork was only on the second floor balcony, and so we replicated the newel posts as well as the spindles, and we went about trying to put it all back in place as close to original as possible. I've always felt like there was a great spirit in the house, and I think that came from the original builders. They were good people, and it reflected in their service to the community.